Welcome to this video about ReportLoq Plus, Olicem's offline version of a system for monitoring airborne emissions. I am Kenneth, the owner and founder of Olicem, and I'll be showing you the hardware that we're using for ReportLoq Plus, as well as the user interfaces that we have on ReportLoq Plus. Let's get to it. Well, let's have a look at the hardware we can include for ReportLoq installations. There are two different kinds of approaches when choosing hardware for a ReportLoq installation. One of them is a simple controller. This one can do data collection, and if we look at it, we can see that it has different kinds of interfaces. I've hooked it up here with some different technologies. We have a Profibus and a Profinet adapter here, and we also have some 4 to 20 milliamps. You can choose other modules regardless of what your needs is. I'm sure we can find a technology that fits your purpose. But the collector here, the data collector, simply collects everything that comes in on the bus technologies or the hardwire technologies and collects the data inside the controller. Here it resides for 30 days. The controller saves it in an embedded database, and this embedded database makes sure the data resides in here regardless of what would happen on the plant's subsequent systems. So it works as a data buffer and provides a high level of security. The other option we have here is an IPC. This is an industrial PC. It's actually a little like the controller that we looked at just before, but it has some additional possibilities. The module we have here is a module that allows us to connect other devices. So we could actually take one of the modules we have on the controller and simply slide it on to this module, so it simply connects very well with the other modules. This would have the advantage when you install it of collecting the same kind of data that you had previously. But now you have another option as well, because the IPC here is an industrial PC and it has more CPU power. So in addition to data collection, this baby can also do some dash calculations. We can install ReportLoq directly on this hardware, and this means that you will not need any additional hardware. This is all you'll actually have to acquire and to install on your plant in order to do environmental calculations and get reporting up and running. Because the IPC here does the data collection, as you can see here, using some EtherCAT, stores it internally, and does subsequent calculations. If you choose this one, then you have everything you need. This is an all-inclusive solution, I guess you could say that. Whereas the controller here also needs an additional component, because this needs somewhere to do the calculations as well. And these calculations could be carried out on a computer, servers of some sort. We recommend Windows servers for that kind of calculations. Let's have a look at how ReportLoq is actually operating when using these kinds of technologies. This is the user interface for ReportLoq Plus and ReportLoq Soft, for that matter. They are both offline installations and can be run completely without any kind of internet connection. As you can see here, the system is built on a web platform. That merely means that you need to use your browser in order to access it. You will, however, need to access it on a local IP address, as you will not be able to access it from the internet. When you look at the user interface here, the first thing we see is the real-time overview. We also call it the CEMS, Continuous Emission Monitoring, where we can see the operator's view during the day. We have the raw values coming in here and being calculated in various stages to reference conditions and averaged to hourly and as well as to daily, monthly, and yearly averages. This view will be configured depending on what you are actually measuring. So if you have more components, the view will be larger. If you have lesser components, the view will of course be shorter. What we can see here from the right side is that after these green checkboxes, we have a lot of averages coming in. The averages are created from the raw values and their corrected values, and give the operator a glance of what the average will be or is at this current point in time. If there are any problems, if there are any average values that are about to be exceeded, then the average will be yellow instead of green. Could also be other colors, but yellow are the default color, and that makes it visual for the operator of the plant that they need to do something in order to avoid exceeding these average values. The current limit values from the plant's legislation is also viewable from this page. They are the gray numbers just below the average value. Let's look at some of the other UIs that are embedded in the system. We have the combined view. It actually looks a little the same. It just embeds several stacks. In this case, 2 stacks. It could be more stacks. If you have a large monitor where you can zoom a little out, then you can put in more. Or if you would like to exclude the alarm list, then of course there are even more space here. But it makes it possible to have a plant with several stacks and a joint overview with a quick glance. In addition to this, ReportLoq is of course a reporting system as well. So you'll have various reports coming in here. You can see, for example, the interval reports here. If I take the monthly report, then we can see every day what was the average value and has any of them generated any problems. We can see here that the HCL is marked VA at the 8th of February. And the VA here is valid but anomalous. That means that the value is actually okay, but it is too high. So at this day, they actually created a daily exceedance on their HCL that has probably been reported to the authorities at this point. There are also a lot of other different reports in here. I could, for example, mention the monthly exceedance report that makes it possible in a quick glance to see what exceedances you've been creating. This is for a waste incineration plant. It could also be for a combustion plant. In that case, you'll have some other kinds of exceedance reports that match your needs a little better than here, where we, for example, have the after combustion chamber with the 850 degrees, which is required for waste incinerators only. You can also see the discarded days until this day, and we can see that nothing is listed, so there are no discarded days for this plant at this early stage of the year. A lot of other different reports are available, and the last one I'll show you here is the mass emission report that calculates emissions to kilos, so they can be reported to the authorities. This includes plant startup and shutdown in addition to plant operation time, and means you'll have to pay taxes from these emissions also during your startup and shutdown according to EN 17255-1. In addition to this, there are various historic functions in here. You can see your exceedances and filter them out, seek them out, see how many exceedances of CO you've had the last 2 years, if that was the use case, and export them to Excel or a PDF file. And the same goes for alarms and events if you want to see how often your dust monitor has been calibrating or is failing or something like that. Let's also look very briefly at the trends module. In the trends module, you can actually see your emissions being calculated from your raw values as they were on the analyzer, and you can choose to, for example, see corrected values in addition to this. This actually means that the blue line here is what you've been seeing on your analyzer, and the orange line is what you've been seeing on your reports, because your reports are in a reference condition, and that means that we use the reference condition values for the calculations, and that may help you understand why your values, your calculated values, are not the same as the ones you can see on your analyzers when we average them for you. Calculations are not the only option in here. You can trend your values. That could be on a 30-minute average, if you please, during the last month or year, or or just for a day if that's more appropriate. There are also the option of inputting QAL in here. I believe every plant, or most plants anyway, are using the QAL2 values to take the measuring point or place into account when doing calculations. If you do that, then you could put in the A and the B value from the Qual2 report directly into ReportLoq, and that would mean that ReportLoq automatically uses the adjustment that you enter here in the subsequent calculations. If your Qual2 has failed, then you can deactivate your confidence interval at the same time, given of course that you are using confidence intervals at your plant. The same goes for Qual3. Well, not about confidence intervals, but it's here that you can enter them. So if you're, for example, using a span and a zero gas that you have installed on your plant, and you would like to verify if your analyzer is actually measuring the right values, then please just input the appropriate values here, and your gases will automatically be calculated accordingly to the Qual3 value. We use QSUM for calculation in this system, so you may not have any adjustment if you just put in the same value, and if your analyzer has not started to drift, then everything is fine, and then we do not calculate any adjustments. But if there are any adjustments, the UI here will show up and ask you if you would like to accept them. This is the user interface, very briefly described. There are a lot of different possibilities in ReportLoq, and it's very extensive and have a lot of different options, and is at the same time very flexible. You can use single analyzers, or you can use redundant analyzers, or whatever you have on your plant and your installation setup. That's it for this presentation. We've gone over the hardware and we've gone over the user interfaces. There's still a lot to be said about ReportLoq, but to make this video short, I think we should end it here. Feel free to enter our website and take a look at it. The URL is here in the bottom of this video, so you can find it. And feel free to contact us if you have any additional questions about ReportLoq. Thanks for now, and see you out there.